Okay. So welcome all to this event run by the Indigenous Studies Discussion Group, or ISDG, at the University of Cambridge. And thank you for joining us today. We are grateful to the Center for Research in the Arts, Social Sciences and Humanities and the Cambridge Heritage Research Center for the support of this group and for making this event possible. The ISDG is a graduate-led student initiative started in 2019 with the objectives of promoting scholarships by and about Indigenous peoples across disciplines and spaces to be a regular feature of the intellectual life of Cambridge and promoting the sharing and discussion of insights and ideas pertaining to Indigenous studies across disciplines, peoples, times, and geographies. While the term Indigenous is used in the title for brevity, our group aims to discuss topics pertaining to groups who identify variously as including but not limited to First Nations, Adivasi, Aboriginal, Native Nations, scheduled tribes, natives, or autochthonous. We work with politically marginalized communities, the word over, whose identity is strongly tied to a land, regardless of whether they identify as Indigenous or not. As a crucial example, we have worked with Palestinian communities, and we support the Palestinian struggle. Today's event is particularly important. All around the world, renewable energy projects are being developed as crucial within the green policies that are necessary to tackle climate change. While this transition towards renewable is, of course, urgent, at the same time, it is increasingly used to justify exploitative policies in which industrial-scale energy plants are built to generate profit for multinationals at the expense of local rural communities. In this panel, we will discuss the issue and its impacts with representatives of some of the dozens of affected communities around the world, from the indigenous Zapotec peoples of Mexico to the Saami of Northern Europe, alongside the local community of the Sardinians from the homonymous Mediterranean island. I'm Sara Corona. I'm a Master of Philosophy graduate in Heritage Studies at the University of Cambridge, previously majored in prehistoric archaeology, and I'm from Sardinia myself. My MPhil research has focused on the cultural impact of wind farm projects on Sardinian rural communities. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, Sardinia is a big island that is part of Italy, but there's a separate ethnic identity that is strongly tied with the land. We are not recognized as an ethnic minority within Italy, but as a linguistic minority. Despite this, our culture has been consistently counteracted and marginalized by the state. As an example, we're not allowed to use Sardinian language in schools. While Sardinians are not classified as indigenous, we hold a strong connection with the land that spans historically and is crucial for our identity. In my research, I have found that large-scale renewable energy projects in the island are felt by many locals in continuity with historical practices of exploitation of local resources for foreign gain, and thus as a form of ongoing cultural loss. So we are truly super grateful for this opportunity to share our struggle with affected communities, with other affected communities, and we hope to learn, first of all, to learn from this exchange. To speak about renewable energy speculation and the conflict arising around renewable energy projects, particularly wind farms on indigenous lands, we are honored to have with us this afternoon, first of all, the head of the Human Rights Unit of the Saami Council and member of the Saami Parliament, Eirik Larsen, Andrea Manzo Matus Binnizá from the Isthmus of Tehuantepec and member of the Community Assembly of Unión Hidalgo, Oaxaca, Antonio Muscas, member of the Sardinian Committees against renewable energy speculation, and Matteo Mandis, vice mayor of the Municipality of Villanovaforru in Sardinia. Before we begin, there are just a few housekeeping points. First of all, please keep your microphone turned off. The event will be recorded, so please keep that in mind and keep your cameras on or off as you prefer. By remaining in the room as we record the meeting, of course, you consent to be recorded. The recording will then be available on the CRASSH website and on the ISDG Cambridge YouTube channel soon after the event. During the Q&A, if you would like to ask a question, please use the chat function to send a message to the general chat or to me, and we will read it aloud. If you want to ask your question in person, please indicate that in the chat. Captioning has been enabled for this event, of course in English. If you would like to have captioning, you can select it at the bottom of your screen. Finally, we are doing our best to provide an inclusive environment in this online event. It goes without saying that all attendees are expected to show respect and courtesy to the speakers and each other throughout the event. So we can begin the event with Eirik Larsen. As previously said, he is head of the Human Rights Unit at the Saami Council of the Saami Indigenous Peoples. Mr. Larsen is from Norway, where he grew up in a small-scale farming environment on his ancestors' former reindeer Saami pastures. His expertise lies in the interaction between state governments and indigenous peoples, as well as in human rights within the United Nations system. He holds a master's degree in law from the Arctic University of Norway, where he graduated with a thesis focused on constitutional law and Saami and indigenous peoples law. Larsen has previously worked as political advisor for the governing council of the Saami parliament in Norway. He has also worked with indigenous peoples issues in Norwegian ministries. He is elected as a member of the Saami parliament in Norway and represents the Norwegian Saami Association. Go ahead, Mr. Larsen, thank you.
Thank you for your kind introduction, and allow me to say good afternoon to everyone. So I'm the head of the Human Rights Unit at the Saami Council, which is a Saami NGO, and we have member organizations in Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. So I am mandated to work with some issues in all of these 4 countries. So allow me first, just briefly, to present or to introduce you to the Saami people and the Saami territory. So we call our territory for Sápmi. So that's our traditional territory, and it's situated in the northern part of the Scandinavian peninsula, Norway, Sweden, and Finland, and also large parts of the Kola Peninsula in the Russian Federation. And traditionally, our livelihoods are the most famous one, reindeer herding, but also fishing, hunting, gathering, agriculture, mainly small scale. Handicraft are central to the Saami culture. So in numbers, we are not that many, and we actually don't know how many Saami that are. But we have estimated maybe 100,000, where 20,000 approximately live in Sweden, and maybe 50,000 in Norway. So we are in minority in all of our 4 countries. So our borders, we have Saami borders and different Saami languages, 9 different Saami languages. So we have our internal borders, and the state borders crosses our borders. So we are used to cross the border, quite ordinary, to meet our relatives, and also to our traditional livelihoods across the borders. So the only borders who is closed for us to cross, or not that easy for us to cross, is the border to Russia. But despite of this, we try to live as one people, within 4 countries. So we are recognized at or acknowledged as the indigenous peoples by other indigenous peoples, and also consider us as peoples, as indigenous peoples. And beside of this, the states where we live, they have also acknowledged us as indigenous peoples. But we are not considering us as national minorities. So it's mainly the status as indigenous peoples we prefer. So we have different kind of institutions. We have representative institutions like the Saami parliaments, and we have NGOs and other institutions, universities and some other institutions. So legally, the main legal instrument is the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which were adopted by the UN General Assembly in 2007. But all of the 7 socio-cultural regions of the world also gave their consent to the declaration. So indigenous peoples have also consented to this declaration. So it's a highly important document to us, and despite a declaration is not legally binding in itself, the states and indigenous people has endorsed that the content of the declaration is legally binding. So that is our starting point. Norway has also ratified the ILO Convention 169 on indigenous peoples. Sweden and Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia, they have not. So so climate change is already causing significant negative effects, especially in the Arctic, because we are in the Arctic. The Saami territory is mainly in the Arctic, and already occurring at the magnitude and pace unprecedented in recent history. So at least the climate or the increased temperature is 3 times faster in the Arctic than for other regions of the world. So we are already experience higher temperatures, permafrost thaw, changes in snow cover, loss of sea ice, more extreme weather events, declining biodiversity, and also northward shifts of species on land and water. So there are rapid changes in the conditions that threaten the Saami way of life. The lands carries the Saami people's cultures. So without lands for our traditional livelihoods, the Saami culture, even not our languages will survive without land, because our culture is adapted to our lands. Without land, no Saami future. Our culture depends on the land. This means that economic compensation or promises or prospects of new industrial workplaces will not secure the Saami culture, and economic compensation will therefore not be a valid mitigation or a solution for development projects in the name of the green transition. So speaking as a lawyer, I would also underline that such an approach would have challenged indigenous people's rights under international law. I would also like to underscore that the Saami land is already producing renewable energy, so more energy than we actually need. So we have already access to renewable energy. So the question now is how much more energy do we need to produce to export to other regions? We have actually so much renewable energy that some days we are actually getting paid for using energy. So 3 days ago, we were actually paid for using energy because we had too much, and the infrastructure doesn't allow us to export the energy to Europe, and we actually don't want a higher capacity to export energy because we will experience more demand for new projects. So for our case, as indigenous people, we are one of the indigenous peoples who don't ask for access to renewable energy. We have it. We are already exporting it. We have already exportation mining and have contributed more than our part for hundreds of years to come. So our main concern is to protect our land, because we know that will protect our culture and future. We experience an increased global interest in our natural resources, wind power plants, hydropower dams, extractive industries. Almost all of these projects are in direct conflict with Saami livelihoods and areas essential for our culture. So that makes the Saami people not only highly affected by the climate change. As I said, in the Arctic we experience 3 times faster temperature increases than other regions. So we are among the most affected, and we need a a green transition. But at the same time, we are asked to give up our land to save the world from a crisis that other has the main responsibility over, and that's why we all often refer to renewable energy project as green colonialism. So we experience a double burden. You can say on the one hand, the Saami people are among the most affected. On the other hand, we are expected to carry the burden of mitigation with giving up our land. So there are many projects at the moment, and some of them are more famous than other. Maybe the most famous one from recent years is on the Norwegian side of our territories. It's the so-called Fosen case. So Fosen case is a conflict centered around a peninsula in the southern part of the Saami territories, the middle part of Norway, but the southern part of the Saami territories, where there are developed one of the largest onshore wind projects in Europe. So this project or these wind facilities are constructed on our winter grazing land for reindeers. And winter is the most crucial time of the year, because how many reindeer you can feed during the winter decides how many reindeer you can have at the rest of the year. So we don't feed our reindeers. They are grazing outside all year long. And that's why it's so healthy meat and nutritious, and also climate climate friendly and good for the biodiversity. So this specific area is contested by wind power by the wind power industry, because during winter we need to find areas with a little snow without snow cover, and those areas are usually higher areas from sea, and where it is a lot of wind to blow the snow away, and that's why the wind industry wants the same area. But without winter grazing land, we don't have a foundation to have wind or reindeer herding industry during the rest of the year. So this case was decided back in 2010, and the first decision was made by state government in 2010, or it was started, and the first decision permission was given in a few years later. And in 2013, the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy gave its final decision to accept or to give a license to construct a wind power facility in this area. So we didn't realize the extent of the impact at the moment, because especially wind power facilities was something new to us, at least in large scale. But the reindeer herders, they acted, and they took the decision into court, and they claimed that the licenses were invalid, citing violations of the Article 27 of the United Nations Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 27, about minority rights. And the Human Rights Committee has, in a general comment, stated that this article should be interpreted with Article 1 about self-determination when we are speaking about indigenous peoples. So this article has a different content, or more extended content regarding indigenous peoples than for other national minorities or minorities. So this article is really important for indigenous peoples when speaking about land encroachments. In Norway, it's incorporated into ordinary law, and in conflict with other acts in the Norwegian system. Article 27 will have priority. So it's a really strong legal instrument to us. Let's see, I got a message here from Zoom. Excuse me. So, but nevertheless, the wind companies were granted permission to initiate construction before the legal disputes were solved. So already in 2019 and 2020, the whole or both of the wind power facilities were constructed. When you build or construct wind power facilities in mountain areas, you need a lot of new roads. It's different than flat areas where it's more easier to construct. So there's 159 kilometers of wide roads built on the mountains as well, making winter grazing land making the winter grazing land for reindeer husbandry not valuable at all. So since this is a winter grazing land, and wind power facilities or the wind turbines are under operation during winter, it's not safe to get close to each turbine, because the turbine collects ice, and after a while they throw the ice up till 200 meters away, like large ice blocks. So it's not safe to be close to wind turbines in Arctic during winter. So the land was basically useless for the reindeer herders. Yeah, it was a major impact. So in 2021, many years later, the legal dispute reached the Supreme Court of Norway, and the Supreme Court of Norway determined that the wind power facility violated the reindeer herders' right to practice their culture after Article 27 ICCPR. So in the judgment, emphasis was placed on the vulnerable Saami culture. Consequently, the decision regarding the license and the expropriation permits were ruled invalid. So after this decision, we were actually really surprised. We are not used to winning court, but the government was also really surprised. So it took almost 2 years before the government acted. So there were massive demonstrations in the streets of Oslo, organized by Sámi youth and Norwegian youth. They actually succeeded to shut down 11 Norwegian ministries. They occupied the Norwegian parliament and also shut down the state-owned energy company Statkraft. So these demonstrations forced the government to act, and there are no reached agreements on how to deal with or to follow up this court decision from the Supreme Court. So in just briefly, I can say that they are promised new land, winter grazing land with the same quality for winter grazing than the land that they have lost, and they are also given a veto right to decide what is going to happen with the wind power facility when the licenses run out in about 20 years. So they have actually sought the consent from the reindeer herders, the right holders, after the construction. So the standards in international law regarding indigenous peoples is the free, prior, and informed consent, that indigenous peoples have the right to give their consent freely and prior to any decision. So this decision has been really important for the Sámi people, and also as an important example to try to implement the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and the standard with the free, prior, and informed consent in Norwegian legislation, to avoid examples like this in the future. So this could also have happened in Sweden and Finland as well. The legislation is not strong enough at the moment. So I guess I have used my time. So I leave it with that, Sara.
I just want to say that we will have, thankfully, lots of time to ask questions, and I have many questions for you. So we'll definitely go back to you and you talk too. Thank you. And we can continue with Andrea Manzo Matus. Mrs. Manzo is a Binnizá, Zapotec in English, from the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. She's a social anthropologist and member of the Community Assembly of Unión Hidalgo in the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, Oaxaca, southern Mexico. She has participated in the defense of her community's territory against the installation of wind energy mega projects from private companies, and collaborated in collectives with indigenous women from the region in the search for just economic alternatives, with a gender and community focus. She will be talking in Spanish with real-time translation in English every few sentences, so please be patient. Go ahead, Mrs. Manzo, and I will put the PowerPoint. Andrea, ahora pongo el PowerPoint. A ver,
Gracias.
decidme si se ve primero porque no estoy segurísima.
Sí,
Se ve, ok. Genial. Déjame un segundito. Just a second. Okay. Okay. ¿Qué?
ya estoy.
Sí.
Gracias. Bueno, buen día aquí desde el sur de México. Primero que nada, muchas gracias por la organización de este espacio, a Lásse y a los compañeros que forman parte de esta plataforma. Creo que
Thank
vamos
you
a ir.
so much from South Mexico and to all the comrades from the ISDG that helped to organize the event.
Gracias. Pues quisiera comenzar compartiendo que soy parte de una comunidad indígena en el Istmo de Tehuantepec, en Oaxaca, México. La región en la que se sitúa mi comunidad ha sido históricamente un territorio en disputa y específicamente durante los últimos 16 años nos hemos enfrentado a la instalación de megaproyectos energéticos de capital extranjero.
I'm part of an indigenous community in the Isthmus of Tehuantepec in Oaxaca, Mexico. The region where my community is located has historically been a contested territory. Specifically, during the last 16 years, it has been affected by the construction of foreign-led energy mega projects.
Actualmente en la región, en un territorio aproximado de 30,000 hectáreas, no sé si puedas cambiar
¿Sigo?
la
Claro.
diapositiva. Sí. La siguiente.
Ay, perdón.
Sí, la última, la siguiente, perdón.
¿No está yendo delante?
Sí,
¿Va muy
después de
lento?
las fotos. Ahí, ahí.
Ah, aquí
Y
estamos, vale, genial. ¿Se ve?
como comentaba, sí, actualmente en la región, en un territorio aproximado de 30,000 hectáreas, se encuentran instalados 29 parques eólicos con aproximadamente 1,500 aerogeneradores en operación, los cuales han sido desarrollados en su mayoría por empresas españolas y francesas, entre las que se encuentran Iberdrola, Acciona, Gamesa, e incluso Enel, y Électricité de France.
Currently, 29 wind farms are installed in the region on a territory of approximately 30,000 hectares, with 1,500 wind turbines in operation, most of which have been developed by Spanish and French companies, including Iberdrola, Acciona, Gamesa, the Italian Enel, and Électricité de France, EDF.
Esto ha provocado la movilización de muchas asambleas y comunidades que componemos el territorio, evidenciando lo insostenible de la instalación masiva de los parques eólicos, las complicidades del Estado y los gobiernos en estos procesos de negociación para la concesión de permisos ambientales. Hemos visto que se ha intensificado la militarización y la violencia vinculada a estos parques, vinculada a la llegada de estos parques. y hemos denunciado la vulneración de los derechos indígenas a decidir sobre nuestros territorios, tal como lo marca el convenio 169 de la OIT, además de la desigualdad entre el acceso y el consumo de energía vinculada al colonialismo energético.
This has led to the mobilization of many assemblies and communities in the region. They have highlighted the lack of sustainability of the large-scale construction of wind farm, the complicity of the state and governments in the processes of negotiation for the granting of environmental permits, and how militarization and violence have intensified in relation to these projects. In particular, they have denounced the violation of the rights of indigenous peoples to decide on their lands, as set out in the UN International Labour Organization Convention 169, as well as the inequality of access to and consumption of energy that comes with energy colonialism.
Y es en esto último en lo que me quisiera centrar, compartiendo algunas reflexiones que han nacido a la luz de espacios asamblearios, del contacto con otros compañeros y compañeras académicas, investigadores, investigadoras, particularmente a partir de la lucha que hemos pues llevado a cabo en contra de la instalación de un megaproyecto eólico promovido en mi comunidad por EDF, que ha sido promovido desde el año 2016.
¿Tengo que seguir con la presentación? Ok, voy adelante.
Quizá ahora.
Me quedo, vale.
Sí.
It is on the latter that I would like to focus, sharing some reflections that have emerged within community assemblies, from meeting with comrades in academia, research, and in particular from the struggle against the construction of a wind farm promoted by EDF since 2016 in my community.
Sí, puedes cambiar la presentación. Ahora sí. Bueno, ahí vamos a ver un poco cómo se encontraba el territorio concesionado en 1994 y si avanzamos. Cómo empieza la instalación de megaproyectos en el 2010, que suma 7, y un clic más. En 2015 y otro más. Y bueno, hasta el 2020, ¿no? Cómo se ha ido concesionando el territorio.
So we can see the development of these projects throughout 2010, 2015, and then 2020. We can see a sharp development of these projects in the territory.
Bueno, nosotros no negamos que nos encontramos ante una crisis climática y energética que definitivamente nos obliga a cambiar los modelos de producción energética e intentar migrar a la generación de energías sostenibles. Sin embargo, lo que hemos vivido en el Istmo pues revela los mecanismos a través de los cuales, bajo esta necesidad de transición, se continúan sacrificando territorios, sobre todo territorios indígenas, en donde se conserva la mayor biodiversidad del país, sin que las comunidades seamos parte de esta transición.
We don't deny that we're facing a climate and energy crisis that forces us to change energy production models and try to shift towards renewables. However, what we have experienced in the Isthmus reveals the mechanism through which, under this need, territories continue to be sacrificed, especially indigenous lands, where the country's greatest biodiversity is maintained, without the communities being involved in this transition.
En México, las industrias consumen el 60% del total de la energía producida en el país. E incluso esta energía que se produce a través del capital privado, es decir, EDF, Iberdrola, Gamesa, no se destina a la población y ni siquiera se redistribuye en las poblaciones en las que se genera esta energía. Por ejemplo, en el Istmo de Tehuantepec hay comunidades que aún no cuentan con energía eléctrica. Incluso durante los últimos días en los que en México se han declarado las inmensas olas de calor que han venido acompañadas de sequías y de incendios, se ha cortado el suministro a las comunidades ante el colapso pues del sistema eléctrico que presenta en el país. Aquí podemos ver en la segunda columna a qué empresas pertenecen y suministran energía estos parques eólicos.
In Mexico, factories account for 60% of the total energy produced in the country, and the energy produced by private companies, EDF, Iberdrola, Gamesa, etc., is not supplied to the general population, nor is it even redistributed to the communities where it is generated. For example, in the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, there are communities that still do not have electricity. Even during the last few days, in which there have been huge heat waves accompanied by fires and droughts, the energy supply to the communities has been cut off due to the collapse of the energy system in the country. In the columns here, you can see which company produces how much power and energy in the territory of the Isthmus.
Y lo que vemos es que esta transición energética no está enfocada a la soberanía energética del país, ni en la distribución de la energía, ni en la disminución de gases de efecto invernadero, y mucho menos en la generación de energía limpia para la reducción de combustibles, del uso de combustibles fósiles. Incluso durante los últimos años, el consumo industrial de la energía va en aumento. Por eso, para nosotros vale la pena preguntarnos a qué intereses satisface la energía producida por los parques eólicos existentes en la región. Cuando esta es distribuida principalmente hacia el centro del país, hacia los estados con mayor presencia industrial, que alimentan a empresas mineras, a empresas cementeras, refresqueras, a la agroindustria.
This is because the energy transition is not focused on the energy sovereignty of the country, nor on the redistribution of energy, nor on the reduction of greenhouse gases, and much less on the generation of clean energy to reduce the use of fossil fuel. Even in recent years, industrial energy consumption has been on the rise, actually. It is then worth asking what type of interests are being served by the energy produced by the wind farms in the region. This energy is mainly distributed towards the center of the country, to the states with the greatest industrial activity, and feeds mining, cement, soft drinks, and agro-industry companies.
Es decir, la producción de esta energía sigue sustentada y sigue alimentando un modelo de consumo inmoderado para la producción del capital que continúa reproduciendo a su vez desigualdades entre los territorios y las comunidades en las que nos encontramos. Lo que observamos también es que hay una relación estrecha entre el uso del discurso de la emergencia climática, que como he mencionado no negamos, y los mecanismos de mitigación controlados por las corporaciones que invierten en la producción de energías sustentables para administrar la crisis a través de la instalación de megaproyectos que sostienen el consumo industrial inmoderado.
In other words, they continue to they are feeding a model of uncontrolled energy consumption for the production of wealth that continues to reproduce inequalities within territories and communities. What we observe is that there is a close relationship between the use of the discourse of climate emergency, which of course we do not deny, and the mitigation mechanisms controlled by corporations that invest in sustainable energy production to manage the crisis through the installation of mega projects that sustain excessive industrial consumption.
También encontramos que hay una manipulación del discurso que se produce alrededor de la implementación de las energías renovables que en grandes cantidades siguen generando una dependencia importante a minerales extraídos de procesos de explotación minera, a la instalación de infraestructura vinculada al consumo de combustibles fósiles y sobre todo a la responsabilización de la crisis climática en la que nos encontramos atravesando.
We also find that there is a manipulation of the discourse surrounding the implementation of renewable energies, which in large quantities continue to generate a significant dependence on minerals extracted from mining processes, on the installation of infrastructures that are linked to the consumption of fossil fuel, and above all, on the responsibility for the climate crisis we are currently experiencing.
En ese sentido, también consideramos que mientras no se cuestione el modelo de consumo energético industrial extractivo, no podemos hablar ni de una transición energética ni de justicia climática, ya que muchas de las formas en las que se han instalado los parques eólicos en tierras comunales e indígenas del sur del país han traído consigo prácticas violentas. Se han instalado además aprovechándose de los vacíos legales en el país, aprovechando las crisis del campo y de la agricultura local, y se han instalado vinculándose con el crimen organizado, además de que actualmente se sostienen vulnerando derechos laborales de sus trabajadores locales, quienes operan en sus máquinas, quienes dan mantenimiento, y privatizando el territorio comunal.
In this sense, we think that as long as the extractive industrial energy consumption model is not questioned, we cannot speak of either energy transition or climate justice. Many of the ways in which wind farms have been installed on communal and indigenous lands in southern Mexico have brought with them violent practices, have been installed by taking advantage of legal gaps in the system, taking advantage of the crisis in the countryside and local agriculture, have been installed in association with organized crime, and are sustained by violating the labor rights of local workers and privatizing the territory.
Respecto a la privatización del territorio, esta se ha dado de manera parcial, y por ello para nosotros es muy importante pues las luchas que los pueblos generan y que las organizaciones locales, quienes se han opuesto y han resistido a las corporaciones eólicas, pero vemos también que existe una colonización de las narrativas que circulan alrededor de la energía limpia, la cual a nuestro parecer es de las más difíciles de desmontar, ya que, como hemos señalado antes, estas energías se presentan actualmente como la alternativa ante la crisis, aun cuando en el sur global se instalen de forma masiva, se encuentren ligadas a la acumulación del capital e invadan los bienes comunes, que curiosamente son, como ya lo he mencionado antes, pues los territorios que resguardan la mayor diversidad en el planeta, ¿no? Cuerpos de agua, flora y fauna local.
However, the privatization of the territory has been partial, which is why the struggles of local people and organizations that have opposed and resisted the wind energy corporations have been so important. But there is also a colonization of the narratives that circulate around clean energy, which, in our opinion, is one of the most difficult to dismantle. As we have already pointed out, these energies are presented as the alternative to the crisis, even when they are installed on a massive scale, are linked to the accumulation of capitals and invade the commons, which, curiously enough, are the territories that protect the greatest biodiversity on the planet, both water bodies, flora and fauna.
Por eso vemos que es necesario continuar desmontando estas narrativas que conducen hacia un modelo insostenible, masivo, centralizado de producción energética, para intentar sortear la crisis a través de comunidades energéticas justas, cooperativas y que descentralicen el modelo de desarrollo capturado por las empresas. En México, de hecho, existen ya algunos casos de comunidades que han desafiado estas narrativas de dependencia corporativa y estatista respecto al suministro de energía, y que se encuentran actualmente generando comunidades sostenibles hacia la búsqueda de una transición energética que tienda a ser colectiva. Sin embargo, y con esto me gustaría cerrar, consideramos que necesitamos tejer más redes para visibilizar que esto es posible y para generar herramientas y apropiarnos de herramientas contextualizadas y cercanas a las comunidades.
It's then necessary to dismantle these narratives that lead to an unsustainable, large-scale, centralized model of energy production to try and overcome the crisis through fair, cooperative energy communities that decentralize a development model that is dominated by corporations. In Mexico, there are some cases of communities that have challenged the narratives of corporate state reliance on energy supply, and that are generating sustainable communities towards the search for a collective energy transition. However, and I would like to close my presentation here, we need to build more networks to show that this is possible and to generate tools that are contextualized and closest to the communities.
Gracias, Sara.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much. As I said previously, we will come back to you with any question that people might have. So please, if you have already some questions, drop them in the chat, and we will do these questions later once all the presentation are over. So we can now move to Sardinia. Our next speakers are Antonio Muscas and Matteo Mandis. Mr. Muscas is a mechanical engineer, member of the Zero Waste Sardinia Association and of the Sardinian Committee Coordination Against Renewable Energy Speculation. On the energy issue in Sardinia, he published a leaflet entitled Energy, Democracy and Human Rights in 2019. He was part of a working group convened by the Italian Ministry for Economic Development for the decarbonization of Italy, elaborating proposals for energy production in line with the principles of safeguarding and protecting the environment and landscape, while providing economic benefits to communities. In 2020, they published a booklet entitled Sardinia Island Zero CO2 Phase Out 2025 and drafted a proposal to revise the regulations on renewable energies. He is currently involved in an Erasmus Plus project on the impacts of climate change in agriculture, involving France, Portugal, Romania, and Spain. Mr. Mandis is the Vice Mayor of the Municipality of Villanovaforru in Central Sardinia and Councillor for Culture, Sport, and Youth Policies. He is also a PhD student in Translation into Cultural Studies at the Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona and works as employee at University of Cagliari. Villanovaforru is a small town of 600 people in Sardinia, known in particular for the archaeological and cultural heritage. From the energetic point of view, in 2021, an energy community was founded in Villanovaforru, being the first one in Sardinia and one of the first ones in Italy. As many other areas in Sardinia, also Villanovaforru's countryside and heritage are threatened by projects of energy speculation, in particular by the building of wind turbines. Currently, Villanovaforru's municipality is struggling against these projects, together with the committee Suentunos. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Sara, for organizing this meeting. And in Sardinia, we have more than 60% of Italy's military area, and we have suffered intense mining and forest exploitation, heavy chemical industrialization, and which have left heavy consequences on the environment, health and social fabric, with a failure of economic and social development, high rates of unemployment, school dropout, immigration and mortality and mobility rates, well above the average in the areas affected by mining, industrial and military activities. And in Sardinia, organized a large military exercise with every year, in which countries from all over the world, such as Israel, participate. And even models of Arab villages have been made, including using a former village that was not even completely abandoned. A school of the training of technicians, officers, and sub-officers of the Qatari Navy has been opened in a former military base with a cooperation agreement of Italy, which also includes the supply for weapons and military means. We have a big problem because the CRASSH doesn't seal only the committees in opposition to the institution, but also involves much of the ecological left parties. And environmental organizations such as the WWF and Greenpeace, who have exposed this false renewable transition without any qualms. So left to defend ourselves are just the people of Sardinia and some independent political parties, and some organizations like ISDE and Italia Nostra. So about these plans, they have, as you said before, they have a big impact, and also the facilities sometimes are have more impact than the infrastructure, the plants itself, and there is no any interest to of producing energy because it would not possible to employ it or transport to the continent. We are speaking about at the moment more than 1,000 projects, and so it would be a very big production. The only interest is to speculate, and also now we have technical scientific evidence to prove the absurdity and danger of this uncontrolled spread of new plants that are preventing the right renewable transition. It is now also scientifically established that the only way forward is through the drastic abatement of energy and resource consumption, the recovery of soil and biodiversity. That is the exact opposite of what is happening with the renewable transition. So what we are trying to do now is to organize a struggle, and but also we are trying to do it presenting some law proposals, because what has happened in all these years is that all the laws are being for protecting the nature has been dismantled. So we have a big problem because if the government, the regional government, doesn't fight against these kind of laws, it would be very difficult to find a solution. I don't know if it's clear what I'm saying, Sara. Okay. So in Sardinia, we have the footprint, how you call it? Impronta ecologica, I don't know, I can't remember the name.
Carbon footprint?
Impronta ecologica, ecological footprint.
Ecological footprint.
Ecological footprint is the double than the Italian ecological footprint. So it's because we have three big thermal plants, and so we need to close these plants and to go to change our energy production. And but the problems are not exclusively connected with the carbon dioxide, because we have to to face numerous factors, and which we have to be faced together. So we have to work in the different directions, and so it's not just to produce energy, but we have to start to the soil restoration, and to work in the agriculture sector, for example, because we have to start with the soil, because it's the to reach the we say equilibrium, no? We have to start with the nature. Chiedete di aiutarmi, Sara. Quello che dobbiamo fare è praticamente che noi non possiamo consumare suolo per recuperare il suolo. Noi invece stiamo andando esattamente in questa direzione in questo momento. Ciò significa che il suolo è l'elemento primario per ristabilire l'equilibrio della natura, e quindi dobbiamo mettere in pratica tutta una serie di progetti che partono proprio dal recupero del suolo e dall'abbattimento del consumo di risorse naturali e abbattimento del consumo di energia.
So basically, he's saying that the problem is the level of consume, basically. So the level of consumption. We cannot consume soil, but we're going exactly in this direction. And soil is the primary element in establishing the balance of nature. So we must put in place projects that start with reducing the consumption of soil and reducing the consumption of energy.
Ok, quindi una di queste strade è chiaramente per quanto riguarda per esempio l'agricoltura, il reinserimento delle varietà rustiche, di nuove specie che richiedono meno consumo idrico, meno lavorazione del suolo e meno consumo di energia, così come le filiere corte, quindi andare al contrario rispetto alla delocalizzazione, che significa la rilocalizzazione delle attività produttive.
So one of these routes that we must follow is clearly, for example, with regard to agriculture, the reintroduction of hardy varieties of species that require less water consumption, less soil and energy consumption, as well as short supply chains. And this means exactly going towards exactly the opposite direction than relocation, which is what is being done now with the production of energy that is relocated, it's produced in a place and then it's used elsewhere, and there's a transportation process and structures that are put in place in order to transport it. So this is precisely the logic of relocation that we must counteract.
La Comunità Europea c'è attualmente bloccato un progetto di legge per il recupero dei suoli, che prevede il recupero totale dei suoli al 2050, perché oggi circa l'80% dei suoli in Europa è degradato, e questa legge è stata bloccata anche dall'Italia.
So he's saying that in the European community, there is currently a blocked draft law that envisages soil recovery by 2050. And this is because 80% of soils in Europe are degraded. And Italy has been amongst the countries that has opposed this draft law.
I progetti che sono stati presentati in Sardegna, se venissero realizzati, avrebbero una capacità di produrre energia 10 volte superiore al fabbisogno della Sardegna. Ed è chiaro che questa energia non è possibile consumarla in loco, in Sardegna, ma non sarebbe possibile neanche esportarla per utilizzarla altrove. Quindi è chiaro che si tratta di progetti è una nuova forma, un'altra forma di estrattivismo. Sono progetti che servono esclusivamente a speculare. La domanda che si possono porre le persone è perché, come fai a costruire progetti se poi non puoi sfruttarli, non puoi sfruttare questi impianti? E la risposta è che questi aerogeneratori, questi impianti di produzione di energia rinnovabile hanno diritto a ricevere gli incentivi anche se stanno fermi. E il calcolo che è stato fatto è che se venissero realizzate avrebbero la capacità di rendere a queste società oltre 10 miliardi di dollari all'anno.
The projects that have been implemented in Sardinia, if they were approved, they would produce 10 times more energy than Sardinia needs. It is impossible to consume this energy locally, but also to export it for use elsewhere. So it is clear that this is a new form of extractivism, which only aims to speculate, because the question should be, we should ask ourselves, why projects are built if the energy cannot be exploited? And the answer is that in Europe, renewable plants are entitled to receive incentives from the EU, even if they are not active. It has been calculated that this company would basically gain 10 billion in 1 year from these incentives. Giusto, in un anno, vero? 10 milioni in un anno.
In un anno sì, solo per la Sardegna. Diciamo che
10
questo
billion in
problema
1 year in Sardinia.
Sardinia è un problema che abbiamo già in Sardegna in misura minore, ma che si sta già presentando in maniera molto evidente nei mari del nord, dove non c'è la possibilità di trasferire l'energia degli impianti eolici verso il sud dell'Inghilterra, quindi verso Londra in particolare, che è uno dei maggiori diciamo delle maggiori destinazioni per quell'energia.
It's a problem that we have started to see already in the northern seas, where there is no possibility of transferring energy from wind farms to southern England, particularly London, which is its main objective, let's say. So there's energy that is produced in the northern seas, but they don't know yet, they don't have yet the tools to transfer the energy towards southern England, where it would be used.
L'altra questione è che in Sardegna, parallelamente alla realizzazione di questi impianti, stanno preparando anche per l'infrastrutturazione del gas metano. Quindi è un controsenso totale, perché se tu stai andando verso le rinnovabili, per quale ragione poi devi infrastrutturare anche per il gas? Per il gas abbiamo lo stesso problema, perché non c'è capacità di utilizzarlo. Quindi anche lì l'unico interesse è realizzare le infrastrutture per ricevere i finanziamenti pubblici.
The nonsense in Sardinia is that wind infrastructures are being built at the same time as methane gas infrastructures. So it is clear that the aim is not sustainable energy production, but energy speculation.
Quindi adesso ci sono quindi due aspetti importanti. Il primo è che se noi investiamo una quantità enorme di denaro per delle infrastrutture totalmente inutili, ci stiamo compromettendo la possibilità di effettuare la transizione ecologica, che è indispensabile per salvare noi e per salvare il pianeta. Ok, l'altra cosa è questa, che è chiaro come ha detto giustamente Andrea prima, anche noi dobbiamo essere parte della transizione ecologica, anche noi abitanti della Sardegna, e quindi abbiamo il diritto di essere partecipi della transizione. L'aspetto importante è che la transizione, se fatta bene, può essere una grande opportunità, perché proprio per tutto quello che richiede, per le molteplici azioni che richiede, è necessario investire in ricerca e sviluppo, nella formazione di nuove professionalità, perché rimanendo solo nell'ambito agricolo si può capire qual è la dimensione, no, dell'opportunità in questo senso, perché se io devo lavorare con l'agricoltura di precisione, e quindi significa fare uso intenso di meccanica, informatica, robotica, di buone pratiche, anche recuperando tutte quelle che erano le conoscenze che oggi si stanno andando perdendo, vuol dire significa dare opportunità per tutta la comunità di costruirsi un futuro che non è soltanto salvarsi dalle conseguenze del cambiamento climatico, ma anche avere potersi costruire un futuro decoroso che dia anche una risposta economica alle esigenze attuali della Sardegna.
There are those two important aspects. The first is the waste of money that should instead be used for the ecological transition that is so urgent. And the second is that the locals, as Andrea rightly said earlier, must also participate in decision-making processes in the energy transition, which, by the way, can also be a great opportunity for the economic recovery of the territories, creating, for example, new professional skills in precision agriculture, energy production, etc.
Ok. Non so se è sufficiente, io posso chiudere anche così. Grazie. Thank you.
Thank you. Matteo, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Antonio. Thank you, Sara, for the invitation. I will give you a more specific focus on Villanovaforru, as you said, Sara. I try to share my screen, just a moment. Okay, Villanovaforru is my town, my small town in Sardinia, in the hilly zone of Marmilla. We are 600 people here at the moment, and our economy is based for the most on agriculture. We produce wool, wine, oil, but also tourism is important for us because we have one of the most famous and important archaeological sites in Sardinia, the Nuraghe Giana Maria. I put a photo of this also to give an idea of our landscape, because it's another important part of this matter. Now, Villanovaforru and our territory is threatened by 3 projects, which include 5 wind turbines, and another one is expected to be built in Colinas. That is the closer town to Villanovaforru, and the turbine is expected to be built at 750 meters from the Nuraghe Giana Maria. It's one of the most dangerous projects in this sense, because it also doesn't respect the buffer zone and that laws in Italy try to save. Every turbine expected to be built here as a height of 220 meters. So they will be giants in our territory, in our country, as in was Sardinia. Due to this dimension, also the works will not include just the construction of turbines, but also infrastructure and facilities for the turbines. So as cable ducts or larger streets, and we have some expected effect as in different senses, in more than in several aspects as for the environment, for example, for the deep transformation of our landscape, and also biodiversity, as Antonio was saying before. A great big effects in heritage in our territory because of the devastation preview of dozens of archaeological sites, not only in our territory but also in whole Sardinia too, and in Macmillan in particular, because Macmillan is a region very rich in archaeological sites. Also, there will be a great danger for our economy, because I was saying for agriculture, the bigger danger will be that the decrease of the available land for this activity, because and also there will not be advantages for the population by the production of energy. It is, as not only Antonio but also Andrea and Eirik said, just energy produced just for the speculation, for earnings, private earnings, or for the companies, without a plan of redistribution in to our population. Also, there is a danger of social division. It is possible to imagine, because division between people who are not in favor of this type of buildings, this type of green transition, and people that, for example, want to sell, for example, land and have some easier earning from the projects. One of important thing is that in case of positive evaluation of the project, lands will be expropriated when owners decide to not sell the lands. So these are I try to put together some effects of this situation. In this context, our municipality is trying, since the first appearance of this project, to make some action in different direction to oppose against this project of energy speculation. We are operating in a context where municipalities are not allowed to participate in process decision, for example, to choose in which areas these turbines can be built. So we have to choose consciously which action we can put in place. For example, from the first moments, we try as administration to organize many activities of information and awareness about the situation, also in collaboration with the committee Suento Nostu, that is a committee born in the more or less in the same period, trying to organize, for example, public meetings, debates, in which, in particular, we as administration inform population about, for example, of which project were presented, where in which part of our territory were situated, which would be the action to play to defend our territory. We organize also some art, music, cinema events to, for example, also to raise some funds for legal eventual potential legal battles. We don't have the need at the moment of this money, but we don't know if in the future will be. The goal of this part of our action were to create a collective consciousness and a spirit of resistance in the population. And we can say that until today, in Villanovaforru, no owner have sold land. So we can say that a little part of success we can say that we got a little success in this sense, in this case. The other part of our action had moved on in an administrative direction, because one of the main goals for our municipality, being excluded from the evaluation process of the project, is to gain some time and produce some gem in this mechanism. So, for example, for every project regarding Villanovaforru, our administration produced some legal observations, for example, written together with the Ecologist Association, also with the committee Suentu Nostro itself, and transmitted to the Environment Ministry in Italy. We put a big level of attention on this, because we believe that is a very important part as administration to operate in this context. And some of our observation have been mentioned also by a special committee for the PNRR in the Culture Ministry, when they put one of the first vetoes on the project. These vetoes are not fundamental, are not blocking the project, but is an important part of our an important result of our action until this time. We are also working on a request of archaeological restrictions for each site that is registered on Villanovaforru's territory. We have many nuraghe in our territory. Not each nuraghe has is archaeological restriction. So we are requesting to the Sara, Soprintendenza in English.
Superintendency is kind of an organ of the state that is dedicated to protecting archaeological and cultural heritage in Italy.
Okay, thank you. So we are working on this too. And Gianna Maria, in particular, our nuraghe, is in the tentative list of UNESCO. In Sardinia, there are 32 archaeological sites that are candidates to become UNESCO sites, and in this group there is also Gianna Maria. We don't know if this could be useful in blocking the projects, but it could be another brick in this part. Sorry. Okay. One of the other things that we as administration try to do is to ask us if is there some alternative to this not to the ecological transition, but an alternative to this model of ecological transition. We are since for example, in Villanovaforru, we have an energy community founded some year before that project were presented. In 2021, Villanovaforru, our municipality, founded one of the first energy communities in Italy. We believe that it could be not only an economic tool, a tool to tackle the economic effect of the energy speculation, but also the social effect of the energy speculation. For example, I try to explain in some words how it's how does the energy community work. For example, it is a group of citizens, families, and commercial activities. At the moment, there are 50 users that make part of our energy community. And the municipality has installed photovoltaic systems on roof of public buildings, and this and the energy produced by this system is allocated for the energy community. The energy community has the possibility to make two kinds of earning by this energy from the selling in national electric grid, and from the incentive that come from the consumption of the energy. In particular, is the most social part, we can say, is that the assembly of the energy community has to plan how to use and redistribute this earning. They can decide, for example, to redistribute the money to fight energy poverty. So they can decide to redistribute money to people that has not a possibility, for example, to install photovoltaic system in the houses, or to make some form of reimburse for people with an economic indicators that are more lower. And also energy community as the earnings has to be used for social project, and also in this case the assembly has to discuss about what energy community can do with money for social project. This is the most interesting part in community energy, because it's the fact to put together people and discuss about money problems, about daily things, is a form to raise consciousness about also energy problems, and also energy situation in general. It is an alternative that we are trying to make, and we hope that could be a little response to the energy speculation. We don't know if it will work, because we are a very small context, but it's some it is some granello come posso dirlo? Non mi viene la parola.
Great.
Yeah, a little gray to try to build some bigger alternative. I finished, so I can thank you for attention.
Thank you, Matteo. Just to share your screen. Close the presentation so that we can see our faces. Okay, cool. So first of all, I wanted to give the speakers like 5 to 10 minutes to talk amongst themselves if they have questions they want to give to one another before moving on to the Q&A part. If there's anything that you want to ask. Estaba diciendo que ahora os voy a dar como 5 o 10 minutos para hablar entre ustedes y ver si tenéis preguntas, si queréis hablar de cualquier cosa, de algo específico, antes que podamos pasar a la parte de preguntas por el público. If I can, I have a hint. So I see so many similarities in these situations. Antonio mentioned that Sardinia has a bigger carbon footprint than the rest of Italy, but we have it because we already produce more than we need. That is, we already produce energy to be exported to Italy. Eirik, you said Saami lands are producing more renewable energy than what they need. And Andrea, you clearly said that the energy is heavily produced. I'm shocked by the amount of wind turbine in such a small piece of land, like 1,500 turbines in operation. It's massive. But the local communities, they live in the area, many of them don't have electricity. So in all three of these contexts, however different, we see the same pattern. The energy is produced in excess in the economic and political periphery of the country, going to its economic and political center, i.e. the places where factories are located. And some say this is necessary as factories produce goods and services that serve the whole country, but however, and this is a question to all of you, do you believe this is the case, or do you think these factories, they use the energy produced in your communities, do not actually serve them, do not actually serve the communities and their interests in return? Lo voy a decir en español también, que veo muchas similitudes entre estas situaciones. Antonio ha mencionado que Cerdeña tiene una huella de carbono mayor que el resto de Italia, pero la tenemos porque ya producimos más de lo que necesitamos. Eirik ha dicho que las tierras Saami producen más energía renovable de las que necesitan. Y Andrea ha dicho súper claramente que se produce una enorme cantidad de energía en Oaxaca, y me choca la cantidad de aerogeneradores que hay en un territorio tan pequeño. Pero que las comunidades locales que viven en la zona, muchas de ellas no tienen electricidad. Pues en estos tres contextos, por diferentes que sean, vemos el mismo patrón. La energía se produce en exceso en la periferia económica y política del país, yendo a parar a su centro económico y político, es decir, a los lugares donde se ubican las fábricas. Y algunos dicen que esto es necesario, ¿no? Ya que las fábricas producen bienes y servicios que sirven a todo el país. Sin embargo, ¿ustedes creen que esto es así, o creen que en estas fábricas que utilizan la energía producida en sus comunidades no les sirven realmente a las comunidades y a sus intereses a cambio?
Posso rispondere io? Non c'è nessun interesse per queste compagnie, a parte che abbiamo in un pre-incontro che abbiamo fatto oggi, non l'abbiamo detto, ma le compagnie coinvolte sono le stesse multinazionali. Loro non hanno nessun interesse a produrre energia perché venga utilizzata, soprattutto per le comunità locali. E basta pensare che l'energia rinnovabile, essendo una energia non programmabile, ha bisogno di una infrastruttura elettrica adeguata perché possa essere sfruttata appieno. In Sardegna noi abbiamo invece una infrastruttura elettrica che è disastrata, perché quindi noi non siamo al punto in cui si trovano le comunità di cui ha parlato Andrea in Messico, di comunità senza energia, però è vero che nell'ultimo anno, in estate e in inverno, noi siamo rimasti in alcune località, l'infrastruttura elettrica è saltata completamente proprio perché è un'infrastruttura obsoleta. Quindi non c'è interesse, non solo non c'è interesse per dare qualcosa alle comunità, ma non c'è interesse in generale, e lo dimostra il fatto che anche in Europa stanno tentando come possono di potenziare le infrastrutture per i combustibili fossili e non smettono di esplorare per cercare nuovi giacimenti. Anche in questo caso spesso e volentieri le compagnie interessate sono le stesse.
So he's saying that there is no interest on the part of these companies to respond to the interests of local communities. And first of all, he says it's the same multinational companies that are involved in all our different territories, whether Mexico or Northern Europe or Sardinia, it's the same companies. He's comparing to Oaxaca, and he's saying that even if we are not without energy, we have a broken electricity infrastructure. And in summer and winter in the last year, in some places, the electricity infrastructure has gone completely down in some locations because it is obsolete. So the lack of interest towards communities is clear in the fact that the drilling for fossil fuels is ongoing all around Europe and is being funded all around Europe. Andrea, si quieres ir tú.
Sí, yo creo que es importante como seguir contextualizando, digamos, de qué hablamos con esta transición energética, con esta producción de energía en el marco de una crisis climática global, ¿no? Pensando específicamente en el contexto mexicano, o más bien en el Istmo, pues lo que mencionaba con anterioridad, ¿no? Como que esta energía está directamente vinculada, ¿no? O sea, hay que preguntarse lo que, no sé, muchas organizaciones, muchos movimientos se preguntan, ¿la energía para quién, no? La energía hacia dónde, la energía que se produce. Está vinculada a seguir manteniendo la producción industrial masificada que va hacia pues el deterioro de la propia naturaleza, ¿no? O sea, estas fábricas en realidad están produciendo energía para seguir sosteniendo a empresas mineras, por ejemplo, ¿no? Para seguir sosteniendo a la agroindustria, que además si lo bajamos ya en empleos, en dinámicas como de mercado más locales, pues son amenazas para el mercado local, pero además constituyen o representan formas de explotación para las personas que estamos alrededor, ¿no? Es claro que en el Istmo, sobre todo ahora menos, pero cuando iniciaron los parques eólicos, los técnicos que se contrataban, que daban el mantenimiento a estos parques, pues eran técnicos especializados de los países de donde provenían las empresas, porque también hay un racismo, ¿no? Epistémico que es claro que se refleja pues en toda la instalación de estos megaproyectos. Entonces, creo que por eso parece importante como, o sea, ser muy incisivas en eso, porque se generan narrativas que dicen que además de que hay que cambiar y que hay que detener el colapso global que estamos viviendo, hay que generar empleos, ¿no?
She's saying that she thinks it is very important to continue to contextualize what we are talking about with this energy transition and this energy production in the context of a global climate crisis. And thinking specifically in the Mexican context and in the Isthmus, this energy is directly linked to maintaining mass industrial production. So basically what we must ask ourselves is what many grassroots movements are asking. So who who is this energy for? Who's actually profiting from this energy? These factories are producing energy to continue sustaining the mining companies, the agro industries, which are threats to the local market and also constitute forms of exploitation for the people around them. And another thing that she's adding is that when the constructions started in the Isthmus, the technicians of the factories were specialized technicians from the countries of the companies, because there is also an element of systemic racism in the building of these projects and in the idea and the rationale that is behind the projects. Eirik, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess we all are speaking about the need for a just transition. And in the indigenous peoples context, we are speaking about the right to self-determination, the right to have to control over our own land and how we use the land in the best way to preserve and develop our culture. So we also have a crisis, ecological, biodiverse crisis, and research indicates quite clearly that the areas which is managed by indigenous peoples, they have the highest or the best quality on biodiversity. So there are actually solutions on protecting indigenous people's land. The just transition is also about enable indigenous peoples and others to access renewable energy. So that's also part of that discussion, but in the Sami context that is not relevant because we already have renewable energy. Thank you.
Lo voy a pasar al español también. Supongo que todos hablamos de la necesidad de una transición que sea justa. En el contexto indígena hablamos del derecho a la autodeterminación, el derecho a controlar la tierra de la mejor manera posible para que se pueda preservar nuestra cultura, la cultura indígena. Y los datos muestran claramente que las zonas que están gestionadas por los pueblos indígenas tienen también la mejor calidad de biodiversidad. Por eso es tan importante proteger la tierra de los pueblos indígenas. Y una transición justa también consiste en permitir a los pueblos indígenas y a otras personas el acceso a la energía renovable. Él dice que en el caso de los Saami no podemos hablar de eso porque ya los Saami tienen acceso a la energía renovable que ellos mismos producen, pero en otros casos, como los de los que hemos hablado hoy, eso sí que es un problema muy grande. Y on this topic, I wanted to ask you something, Eirik. I see that I mean, I study cultural heritage, so I was very, very touched by some parts of your presentation. I see the culture is central in your concerns for the land. Without the land, there is no Sami culture, you said. And you mentioned the historical ruling. I think this is incredibly relevant because it appeals to the Sami's right to culture as to UN resolutions, specifically the Sami reindeer herding culture, to struggle against the building of the wind turbines. But as you said, even though you won, it didn't actually work. It was a community mobilization and demonstration that forced the government to act. However, the wind farms are still there. So as a lawyer, are you hopeful that the law can actually be used and be useful against this speculation if the law is set by the same institutions that will eventually profit from it?
Yeah, hopefully it will, but we cannot be sure. We have a similar court issue coming up starting next week, Øyfjellet, and the same thing happened there. The wind power facility is already constructed before the court process has started. So we will see if the court will follow up the Supreme Court decision. I guess the government and the companies are ready to challenge that historic verdict from the Supreme Court and try to have a new round and to challenge some of the important parts of that verdict. So hopefully we will see that, but I believe that we also need a legislation that actually works. So we don't need to go to the court for every project. So we have also an aim to improve the legislation, which includes the right to the free, prior, and informed consent. And if we have the free, prior, and informed consent is also the tool that the states and the companies actually need to achieve new development projects in indigenous peoples areas, because at the moment indigenous peoples they don't dare to go into dialogue about the renewable energy projects, because they know that, or they have experienced that that if they accept dialogue in the beginning, they will lose control, and whatever impact assessment or how the process goes, if the project has started, it goes by itself within this system. But if you have implemented the free, prior, and informed consent, indigenous peoples will have some kind of security when they enter into dialogue, that they know that they have the right to not give their free, prior, and informed consent, and in that sense have control over their land. So I guess this will apply for local communities in Europe as well. If you have control entering a process on in a development project, you are not that scared to speak with governments and companies. Yeah, I leave it with that.
I don't know if there's anything else others want to say. Otherwise, I wanted to do basically the same question to all the others. To Andrea, for example, you said that the corporations are profiting from legal voids. And we had a conversation about it, and you said now the projects have temporarily stopped, but mostly thanks to mobilizations and because they are struck from the, let's say, from the bureaucratic point of view. Do you trust the legal instruments to face these projects? O sea, me dijiste que las empresas se están beneficiando de los vacíos legales. Básicamente es la misma pregunta que le hice a Eirik, porque tuvimos una conversación tú y yo sobre eso, y dijiste que ahora los proyectos se han paralizado temporalmente, pero es sobre todo gracias a la movilización y porque están golpeados, parados desde el punto de vista burocrático, que están parados ahorita. ¿Y tú confías en los instrumentos legales para hacer frente a estos proyectos o no?
Creo que bueno, han habido diversos procesos como a nivel global, digamos, que han apoyado a que se cumplan, ¿no?, los convenios celebrados respecto a la libre determinación de los pueblos y el reconocimiento del derecho de los pueblos. Sin embargo, observamos que, aunque hacemos uso de esos instrumentos y luchamos por ellos también, no son suficientes para detener, sobre todo en el contexto, en el marco legal mexicano, ¿no? En el que hay tanta corrupción, en el que, bueno, sigue habiendo una dinámica de colonialismo interno bastante presente en las comunidades, en el propio ejercicio del reconocimiento de los derechos. Entonces, Creo que no es un solo frente, digamos, desde el que podamos poder entrar en un diálogo realmente efectivo entre las comunidades y entre las empresas, ¿no? Y bueno, no sé si respecto a la pregunta en el chat, creo lo que entiendo es que por las diapositivas presentadas se ve que efectivamente hay distintas empresas, ¿no? Yo no me refería a una centralización de una sola empresa que produce y distribuye energía, sino a una centralización corporativa que de algún modo coloniza también el imaginario que ha condicionado a los gobiernos locales, además porque hacen uso de la red energética instalada por la red nacional, sin tener ninguna obligación, sin generar ninguna obligación al respecto. Entonces, hay como hablo de una centralización desde las corporaciones, o sea, la producción corporativa, digamos, y también desde el uso de esa energía que es pues únicamente producida para las industrias, ¿no?
So, first of all, she's answering my question. She says that she believes that there have been various processes at the global level that have supported, in a way, the compliance to the conventions that have been signed regarding the recognition of the rights of indigenous peoples. But she says that although we make use of these legal instruments are not enough, especially in Mexico, where there is so much corruption and internal colonialism in the communities as regards the recognition of their rights. And she believes that for these reasons, the legal way is not the only way to engage in a truly effective dialogue between communities and companies. I would add that it's basically a matter of power dynamics. She's also answering the question in the chat where Tom Kisok asked, he says, I really liked your presentation, Andrea. I just wanted some clarification on your last point, where you said that the energy infrastructure in Oaxaca was very centralized, if I heard you correctly. Yet from your slides, it looked as if there was a diversity of energy companies in the region. So was your centralization point more about capitalist structures not allowing space for indigenous autonomy and initiatives, or that there's too much clientelism between the companies? Or is it a case of both? She said, as regards the presentation, she was not referring to the centralization to a single company that produces and distributes energy, but she was first of all referring to a corporate centralization. So the fact that the energy production is centralized to corporations. There is also a centralization that is conditioning the imaginary around the production of renewable energy. And also the fact that they make use of the national grid, but basically they have no obligation towards the public. So it was a two-way use of the term centralization. I think we could keep going with the Q&A. What do you think about it? Unless Matteo and Antonio have something else to say as regards the use of the law, if they trust the law.
Ti parla Matteo.
Come vuoi, posso posso farne in italiano, Sara? Riguardo al voto legislativo, anche noi di fatto siamo più
O in
che...
spagnolo, se vuoi. Come ti viene un po'.
No, vabbè, era giusto per tanto è una cosa velocissima. Siamo anche noi in una situazione di, se non voto legislativo, poco ci manca, nel senso che una delle cose che penalizza di più in questo momento è il fatto che non ci sia un filtro tra la multinazionale che produce energia i proprietari dei terreni, per esempio, nel nostro paese, che vengono contattati da una multinazionale milionaria, miliardaria, adesso non saprei come altro definirla, però c'è uno squilibrio, uno sbilanciamento troppo forte, che non è assolutamente disciplinato, limitato, normato da nessuna legge. Oltre poi all'assenza di una disciplina delle aree idonee e non idonee su dove costruire questi impianti.
He's saying that we are also in a situation, I mean, if we can't call it of a law void, we are very near to that situation. One of the things that we're struggling the most with and that penalizes us the most is the fact that there is no filter between the corporations that produce energy and the landowners. So these landowners are approached by these corporations that are often multi-millionaires companies that have lots of power, lots of economic and of course political power. And there is too great an imbalance that it's not regulated. It's not regulated by any law. So it becomes like a private agreement, basically. Besides the fact that there is no regional regulation on how to build these plants, that is, where to build them and where not to allow their building. Like Matteo was mentioning archaeological sites. This is a very good example, as the buffer zone is not really respected in these projects. So basically, you think that the law can be changed in a way, and it's one of the tools, but do you think it can be the only one, or do we need another approach, for example, local mobilization, which is something that is really ongoing and very strong in Sardinia actually at the moment, luckily?
Posso... le normative servono, sono indispensabili. Infatti quello che è successo in Italia nel corso degli anni è che sono state smantellate tutte le leggi di tutela che consentivano anche alle amministrazioni e alle comunità di intervenire nei processi decisionali. Quindi è indispensabile che ci siano delle leggi scritte anche abbastanza bene, però è chiaro che non è sufficiente, perché poi ci deve essere anche chi queste leggi le fa rispettare. La mobilitazione popolare è importante, però non può durare in eterno. Quindi quello che è importante è che si lavori perché, diciamo, le istituzioni siano rappresentate da persone di qualità, che siano persone che sappiano scrivere le normative, che lo facciano con la precisa volontà di curare l'interesse generale, e poi anche tutto il sistema di contorno, quello che voglio dire, chi deve monitorare sul rispetto delle leggi, quindi parlo del sistema, anche il sistema giudiziario, tutti gli organi che sono stati creati appositamente per far sì che il sistema di regole funzioni. E noi purtroppo, non solo in Italia, lo abbiamo visto che è una cosa che riguarda tutti quanti, che è un problema, se vogliamo, anche del capitalismo, della profonda corruzione che oggi c'è nelle istituzioni. Stiamo andando in direzione esattamente contraria. Le leggi le scrivono le lobby. Le lobby pagano per candidare i loro rappresentanti nelle istituzioni, e tant'è vero che è molto comune trovare dei rappresentanti politici che sono diretta emissione delle lobby. Questo è l'aspetto grave. Un'altra cosa da dire, non so se l'ha accennato prima Matteo, a Villanovaforru la comunità energetica è rimasta bloccata per più di un anno, perché l'Enel semplicemente non doveva neanche meccanicamente allacciare il contatore, doveva semplicemente andare a attivare il contatore per attivarla, e non l'ha fatto perché hanno l'interesse a portare avanti grandi progetti e non i piccoli progetti, quindi creare ulteriore dipendenza nelle comunità.
He's saying that regulations are needed, they are indispensable. In fact, what has happened in Italy over the years, that all the protection laws that allowed administrations and communities to have a part in decision-making processes have been dismantled. But it's clear, however, that this is not enough, because there must be those who make these laws. It's also a matter of who makes these laws and who monitors the laws. He says that popular mobilization is super important, but it can't last forever. So we need not only laws, but also a good judicial system that has to monitor the implementation of the laws. But what he's saying is that basically we are going in exactly the opposite direction. The laws are written by the lobbyists, they're paid to nominate their representatives within institutions. And he's given a very clear example. In Villanovaforru, the energy community that produces renewable energy for a group of families, or that could produce renewable energy for a group of families, has been blocked for years because Enel, the big Italian company, did not want to allow such a small project of self-sustenance, but it wanted, of course, big-scale projects that basically are spreading that dependency and reliance on big-scale production of energy. If you want, we can go to the Q&A. We have 2 questions. So there's a question from Marco, who sent me a direct message. He says in Italian, buonasera, quanto questo proliferare di progetti, oltre che a livello ambientale, impatta anche sull'autonomia e capacità produttiva delle aree interessate in termini di agricoltura e pastorizia? So he's asking how much these projects are also having an impact on the autonomy and productive capacity of these areas from the point of view of economic productions. So basically, especially agriculture and herding.
Impatta notevolmente, perché noi siamo già in una condizione, per esempio in Sardegna, di forte dipendenza dalle importazioni. Noi importiamo all'incirca, secondo alcuni calcoli, l'85% dei prodotti alimentari, e avremmo quindi necessità di investire tanto invece nel reimpiego dei terreni, anche per questioni proprio climatiche, perché come detto prima, la transizione ecologica deve passare attraverso il recupero del suolo, come detto anche prima Eirik, attraverso l'arricchimento della biodiversità. Queste compagnie oggi offrono delle cifre impressionanti spesso per prendere i terreni in affitto, e questo comporta 2 aspetti. Intanto che i proprietari dei terreni preferiscono farsi prendere l'affitto piuttosto che lavorarlo. Quindi cosa succede? Che tutti i terreni agricoli adesso hanno il loro prezzo di mercato sta salendo, sta diventando esorbitante, e questo impedisce a chi vuole fare agricoltura di accedere alla terra. L'altro aspetto è che spesso e volentieri nei terreni già sfruttati, quindi chi ha avuto la fortuna di, tra virgolette, di concedere, di vendere o affittare il terreno, poi tutti i terreni circostanti perdono valore, perdono interesse. Quindi abbiamo questo duplice aspetto. Ma di fatto quello che sta succedendo in Sardegna sta alterando enormemente il mercato dei terreni agricoli, ed è un aspetto molto grave, proprio perché non consente poi di andare nella direzione dell'utilizzo corretto dei terreni.
He's saying that in Sardinia, this has major impact because we are already dependent on imports. We import about 80% of our food production, despite Sardinia being a region in which like our main activity has always been agriculture and herding, together with tourism that has developed in the last decade. And these corporations offer huge amounts of money to the owners of the land. And this leads to two things. First of all, the owners, not always, but often, prefer to rent instead of working the land. And among other things, land prices are rising in Sardinia, and this is preventing those who want to work the land from accessing it. And the other problem is that when one piece of land is rented or sold, the other pieces of land around it lose value. So basically, what is happening in Sardinia is heavily altering the appearance of the farmland, the appearance of the countryside. Eso lo voy a decir también en español porque creo que Andrea dijo una cosa súper importante antes. Él está comentando que en Cerdeña hay un enorme impacto de las estructuras de producción de energía renovable en gran escala en términos de autonomía económica en agricultura y ganadería, porque ya somos dependientes de las importaciones, porque importamos alrededor del 80% de nuestra producción alimentaria, aunque seamos una región que siempre ha tenido como primera actividad productiva la agricultura y la ganadería. Además, con esta situación aquí, pues estas empresas están ofreciendo sumas enormes de dinero a los propietarios de la tierra, a los dueños, y esto lleva a dos cosas. Una, los propietarios a veces prefieren, o sea, no siempre, pero a menudo sí, que prefieren alquilar en lugar de trabajar la tierra, porque pues es mejor en sentido económico. Entre otras cosas, hay que decir que en Cerdeña los precios de la tierra están subiendo, lo que impide a los que quieren lo que sí quieren trabajar a acceder a la tierra. Y la otra es que cuando un terreno se alquila o se vende a estas empresas, los demás que se encuentran en los alrededores pierden valor. Pues lo que está ocurriendo en Cerdeña está alterando enormemente el aspecto de las tierras de cultivo. Y esto es algo que tú dijiste y que me chocó mucho, porque tú dijiste que las empresas están tomando ventaja básicamente de crisis que existen ya en la campaña y en la agricultura básicamente. I'm asking Andrea, as she said, that these companies are taking advantage of already existing crises in the countryside in agriculture. So what does she think about it?
Puedo. Sí, solo para añadir también que las tierras alrededores de las turbinas no solo pierden valor, pero también se convierten en cultivables, porque una turbina, yo creo, no sé el rayo que tiene como peligro, pero yo creo que nadie se pone a cultivar algo alrededor de una turbina, aunque no sea en la tierra suya, pero es otro factor, según yo, de destrucción de la agricultura. No sé si Antonio está de acuerdo, si opina.
Sì, c'è un altro aspetto importante che una cosa molto importante è che le compagnie che ottengono l'autorizzazione per realizzare gli impianti sia fotovoltaici che eolici, acquisendo un diritto a terra, se è stata acquistata, per esempio, per noi è persa per sempre. L'altra cosa è che vicino agli impianti, soprattutto agli impianti eolici o anche attorno agli impianti fotovoltaici, non è che io posso poi, se ho un terreno, posso fare quello che voglio. Proprio per il fatto che loro hanno acquisito un diritto, mi possono impedire di fare delle opere che possono arrecare disturbo al loro impianto. Quindi questo significa per l'eolico mantenere una distanza di rispetto. Non è che io poi ho un terreno e mi posso realizzare il mio aerogeneratore o magari costruire delle infrastrutture che secondo loro impediscono lo sfruttamento del vento. Anche di questo non si tiene considerazione ed è un aspetto molto grave rispetto alla parte più importante, è che loro acquisiscono un diritto acquisendo un diritto vuol dire che loro possono fare praticamente di quella terra che hanno acquisito quello che vogliono e diventa per noi un ulteriore deficit.
Antonio ha añadido que básicamente cuando las empresas ganan la posibilidad de construir en una tierra, en un territorio, una fábrica de construcción de energía renovable, están ganando un derecho. Y este derecho, en el momento en que lo ganan, luego vincula las actividades en los alrededores y les da a ellos la posibilidad de hacer lo que quieren en las tierras de las que han ganado la propiedad, básicamente. Lo voy a decir en inglés también, luego paso la pregunta a Andrea. Basically, Matteo was saying that the land around the turbines not only loses value, but also becomes uncultivable due to the danger of the vicinity of the turbine. And Antonio is adding that when companies gain the right to build on a piece of land, they have gained a right that then binds the activities in the surrounding area and gives the companies the possibilities to do what they want on the land they have acquired. And this is something that we must take into account, meaning that the moment that right is given, the community is losing the land. Non ti si sente?
Mi sentite? No.
Andrea, no sé si quieres ir tú mientras Antonio vuelve a la conexión a internet un poco lento. O Eirik. Either of you. So I see there is a question in the chat to which Eirik has already replied. Priya has asked to Eirik, could you please explain the point on stage at which indigenous groups could intervene as a way to regain control? Is it at the start of the project or later? Which basically, en español sería que si Eirik, ¿puedes explicar en qué momento podrían intervenir los grupos indígenas para recuperar el control? Si es al principio del proyecto o si es más tarde. Eirik, I don't know if you want to explain it to the broader audience.
Yes, I could do so. So the right to be consulted is follows by international law, among other the ILO Convention 169 on Indigenous Peoples, but also the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and other sources as well. So the right to the free, prior, and informed consent, as it follows by the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, does not limit this right to one step of the process. So usually when we are speaking about development projects, there are several steps from mapping of resources to impact assessment, selection of impact assessor, license, expropriation permit, and so on. There are many steps and many decisions to be made. So it applies for every part of this step that indigenous people have the right to give their free, prior, and informed consent. So when we have this right in every step, we maintain the control. So we can say no at every step of the process. and that makes us able to have the security to enter into dialogue and processes about development projects on the indigenous people's land. I'm not sure if it was a question on which indigenous group or entity who is going to provide in the free, prior, and informed consent. So indigenous peoples, we are not used to speak about groups. We are speaking about either peoples, indigenous peoples as such, and we have right holders within our peoples, and we have our local communities within our indigenous peoples, as every other people of the world. So in projects on a specific land, or if there are a project under development on a specific land, it's usually right holders to that specific land who maintain the free, prior, and informed consent. So usually there will be a reindeer herding community who has this right. But in larger projects where the Saami culture might be in severe threat in a larger area, we also demand that the people with the Saami parliament as a representative voice for the Saami people, they have also the right to give the free, prior, and informed consent before any development project is realized. So yeah, it's not an easy question to ask because it's many aspects of its of the free, prior, and informed consent, but there has been made a lot of studies on this topic, and it's still evolving the understanding of this principle and right. So I see this as a tool also for governments and businesses on how to engage in territories of other peoples or for some communities and regions. Thank you.
Eirik explicó que el derecho a ser consultado está regulado por el derecho internacional en respecto a las comunidades indígenas, como la Declaración de la ONU sobre el Derecho de los Pueblos Indígenas. Pero este derecho no se limita a una etapa del proyecto. Suele haber varias etapas, desde la cartografía de los recursos, a la evaluación del impacto, etc. Y en estas etapas hay que tomar muchas decisiones. Por lo tanto, los pueblos indígenas tienen derecho a dar su consentimiento informado en todas las fases del proyecto. Pues cuando participan en el proyecto, en el proceso del proyecto, pueden decir que no en todas sus fases, y esta es verdadera participación. Y en respecto a la cuestión si hay alguna duda sobre qué entidad indígena debe dar este consentimiento informado, pues una cuestión un poco más burocrática. Dice que los pueblos indígenas no están acostumbrados a hablar de grupos indígenas, hablan de pueblos indígenas y tienen titulares de derechos dentro de sus grupos. Si se trata de proyectos en tierras específicas, suelen ser los titulares de derecho en esa tierra los que mantienen el derecho a decidir sobre la tierra. Normalmente es el propietario de los renos, por ejemplo. Cuando existe una amenaza grave en zonas extensas, como en este caso, pues exigen los Saami que el Parlamento Saami, que es la voz del pueblo Saami, también se pronuncie sobre el tema, pues una organización un poco más larga. I think we have answered all the questions. I don't know if you want to talk about something specific, about something else. Otherwise, I think we can also close the session. We have talked a lot. I mean, there will be so much to talk about still. If you still want to do it, just go ahead. No? Okay, so then in closing, I would like to thank very much all the speakers, Andrea, Matteo, Antonio, Eirik, for their super enlightening presentations. The discussion was super engaging. I'm very glad, honestly, I had the opportunity to host this event, and I got all of you here. I think it's the first time, as far as I know, that people affected by such a large-scale phenomenon as this one are able to connect and to engage in a discussion at the same time on the topic. And I think this can be a good step to start wave threads between us and create links between us and maybe find common strategies to tackle this issue. I also would like, on behalf of the ASDG, to thank our audience for taking the time to join us and also for sharing their questions. If you want to learn more about our upcoming events and to register for them, please visit our CRASSH webpage or the ASDG webpage, and the links have been posted in the chat. So thank you so much, and see you soon then in the next event.
Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Thank you
Gracias.
so much.
Hasta pronto. Gracias, Sara, y a todos.
Hasta pronto. Gracias, Andrea. Gracias muchísimo.